Hi, I'm Cynthia Schiller. Please like and subscribe. So we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. What is it? We know our narcissist, a lot of times they're imposters. They have this false image that they present to us. But there is something called imposter syndrome, also known as perceived fraudulence. And sometimes we might have gone through this. So if you've ever felt like you were an imposter in the job place, a lot of people have gone through that thing. It's where we start to feel that we're incapable of doing certain tasks that we signed up for. We feel like we're a total fraud to people, and we might feel like we don't belong. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I on this cheer team? Am I taking on this job? And we start questioning ourselves. We start minimizing our capabilities because we start to feel that we are incapable of something and others are easily capable of it. So we have to believe in ourselves. Sometimes too, when people fraudulently put things on their resumes or embellish them a little bit too much, like, oh, I'm going to get found out. So you start feeling like you're an imposter. Also, sometimes just due to low self-esteem, you can feel like I'm just not going to be good at this. And we start to sabotage our creativity, our ability to present things. It's kind of like stage fright sometimes. You can be the best actor or actress in the world, but once you get in a wrong mindset, everything goes and falls apart. So what exactly does it feel like? It's where you start having conflicts of our own perception of ourselves versus the way other people perceive you. And I go over all the different mental illnesses. I'm starting to create that playlist so we can really see what's going on with ourselves, what's going on with others, with our specific person. Sometimes they might not be narcissists. I've had people feel that their person was a narcissist, and I see other traits that maybe they're not quite a narcissist, or it's a comorbidity where they are narcissistic and histrionic, borderline. So we really need to know what these things are. So if you've ever gone through this where you start putting pressure on yourself to work harder, it can be really time consuming, damaging to your self-esteem, making things harder where you always feel like you have to impress people because you don't feel that you're good enough. So you have to think of it logically. Are you able to do that job? And you have to really think about, are you qualified? Did you go through the training? Are there things that you're lacking, but you can study it? So a lot of times people will start to keep others from trying to see their shortcomings or failures. Instead of asking for help, they work endlessly to cover up some insecurities or some shortcomings because they want people to believe. So they people with this imposter syndrome can make up for what they consider a lack of intelligence, so they're going to overcompensate in different ways. They sometimes feel guilty that they're tricking people, and they just fear that other people will eventually realize that they feel that they didn't earn their things on their own merits. And so it starts a cycle. So you'll start to have bigger accomplishments, but they don't reassure you sometimes. You'll feel like, I was just lucky. I didn't earn that. So somebody sees something good in you, they'll give you a promotion, and you're like, that, I don't know why they gave it to me. And it's a self-doubt, talking yourself into a lower image. And, you know, sometimes if you receive recognition, you'll be like, yeah, they just gave me that job out of pity or sympathy. They knew I have 2 kids at home, so they knew I needed the money, as opposed to, yeah, I earned this job, or I can do this job. And it's a lot of the way that we talk to ourselves makes a huge difference in the outcome of our lives, the energy that we project onto things. And so we start, over time, within this cycle, we'll start to fuel anxiety, depression, guilt. It's almost like self-sabotage. So when you're in this constant fear of being discovered, You strive for I'm tongue-tied. You strive for perfection in everything that you do, and you'll start to feel guilty or worthless if your production is not perfect. We have to remember that nobody's perfect, and it starts to get people burnt out, overwhelmed. So there are 5 different types. You got your perfectionist. They will go above and beyond. A lot of times it's an unrealistic goal because nothing's perfect, and it's impossible to meet those standards. So instead of acknowledging the hard work that was put in, these people who suffer from the imposter syndrome will criticize themselves for even the smallest little mistakes. They feel ashamed. They don't want to present things. They're uncomfortable instead of being confident. And sometimes too, if you present things in a confident manner, people will have confidence in you. But if you present things in a meek and feeble way, people won't believe what you're saying, even if it is based on hard work or based on truth. So you also have your natural genius. And so some people have spent their lives acquiring new skills with very little effort. It's almost like it's second nature to them. But the belief that competent people can handle anything with little difficulty will lead someone to feel like they're a fraud if they have a hard time with something. They'll feel that they're a failure, they're not as good as anybody else because it was always second nature to them. So when they struggle, they feel a worthlessness about themselves. And there's also a soloist, also known as a rugged individualist. So they believe that they should be able to handle everything by themselves, and that they feel that if they can't achieve success by themselves, then they're unworthy. They don't like to accept help. And if they do ask for help, or if somebody offers it to them, it doesn't mean it's seen as if the person's failing. Like, why do I need your help? I can do this by myself. And in order to accept help when you need help, you have to admit to yourself that you need help, that there are some inadequacies, and that's okay. That is okay. Nobody's perfect. And just because somebody knows something doesn't mean that they know everything more than this person. You also have your expert. So this person, before they'll ever consider their work a success, they want to know everything there is to know on it. And they have to become the expert. They might spend so much time pursuing this quest for all the information that they end up having to devote more and more time onto this task. And it starts destroying a person's life. So if somebody believes that they should have all their answer, they can see themselves as a fraud or a failure if they can't answer a single question, or ask somebody else for what the question might be. There's also superhero types, where they will put their competency to the ability in succeeding in everything that they do, whether it's a student, parent, employee, friend. And by failing to successfully navigate all these demands of all these roles, they feel an inadequacy, and they feel that they have to be everybody's hero. Everything has to fall apart. Everything has to fall into place. Otherwise, they feel like they're a fraud to people. And it can be quite devastating. It comes from different kinds of factors that can likely contribute to triggers. Some of the possible reasoning could have been through childhood. If you were pressured to do well in school, if your parents compared yourselves to other siblings. Now, if you notice this too, though, this is kind of the narcissistic parent too, creating somebody who has some feelings. So if the parent was controlling or overprotective, it might cause somebody to feel this way. If their natural intelligence was always emphasized, that became their identity. If they were sharply criticized for mistakes where they felt that they couldn't make mistakes, otherwise they wouldn't be loved. And sometimes too, if you have academic success within your childhood, that can also contribute to feeling like an imposter later in life. Maybe you don't know everything. You were really good in elementary, middle, high school, and then the real world hits you and you realize you don't know everything. So there are certain personality traits to these people. A lot of times they'll have tendencies to be perfect. They lack some confidence in their ability to manage their behaviors, their responsibilities, and they become higher on the scores of neuroticism. And so that, oops, I'm sorry. Sorry, okay. So these traits and existing mental health symptoms, they can cause emotional distress. People who are coping with this imposter syndrome have a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And when living with depression or anxiety, it is coupled with the self-doubt, diminished self-confidence, worries about how others perceive you, and the mindset of feeling less than can reinforce the belief that we really don't belong, or we really aren't able to achieve our goals. And it will worsen mental health symptoms. And it starts to create a cycle that can be very difficult to escape. So when new responsibilities are added, it's common sometimes to feel unworthy of an opportunity or a career opportunity, whether it's academia or in a career, and you feel like you didn't earn it. It was just given to you and you didn't really deserve it. So at the core of it, you might want a certain job. It might be the exact job that you've been chasing after, but then you start to worry you might not measure up to the expectations, and you feel that our abilities aren't going to match what our coworkers or our classmates have. So sometimes people, it hinders them where they won't even apply for things. They won't even try to do things unless they can be the best at it. And it can be really difficult in life. So true imposter feelings involve self-doubt, uncertainty about talents, abilities, sense of unworthiness. It doesn't seem to align with what others think about you because they see your qualities, you see your inadequacies. It's not eye to eye on what you guys are looking at. So it's understandable that sometimes we all go through that. We're a little nervous in the beginning of certain things, but there's a big difference between doubting secretively what your abilities are and being made to feel as if your identity makes you unworthy of your position or the accomplishments that you've achieved. So it's good to acknowledge your feelings. Talk to somebody when you're distressed. Get some outside help, a different context. Like, do you really think I'm able to do this? And why do you think I can do it? Because I'm feeling this. And be open with people. And sharing these feelings can sometimes actually make them feel less overwhelming because you're getting validation. And when you talk to your peers, you know, we can encourage them to do the same thing, helping each other realize that we're not the only one that feels this imposter syndrome, because several people do, a lot of people go through this, and we should not give in to the urges to do everything by ourselves. I struggle with that. Not necessarily, I'm just used to doing everything by myself. And I do struggle with asking for help, just because you don't want to feel like you're a burden to somebody. But true friends will help you if they can. So that's something I'm working on. There are certain things we can't do by ourselves, or it's just easier to ask somebody. And it also develops friendships or camaraderie between people. So challenge your doubts, and really look at them realistically. Avoid comparing yourself to others. That's what a lot of people do. Do I have the best body, or is my body acceptable? Is my hairstyle acceptable? My clothes, my finances, my home, my spouse, whatever people are looking at. You can only compare yourself to yourself, and just do the best you can for whoever you are, what you're comfortable with. And true perfection, it's practically impossible. So failing to achieve doesn't make somebody a fraud, but it is a feeling that people do struggle with. So it is important to talk to somebody. And if you really struggle with it, you can talk to a counselor or a support group, but you have to believe in yourself. And the more you believe in yourself, the more others will believe in you. And they believed in you for a reason. So maybe this time, trust what they see, admit shortcomings. Like, I don't know how to use a copier, which I had to do today because first, I don't know, it took me into a different menu. But it doesn't mean you're like, I'm not incapable of teaching. I could do every other thing on the copier, but there's one thing I couldn't. Doesn't mean I'm a failure. And now that I know, now I'm perfect. But life is a learning lesson, and believe in yourself. That's the moral of this story. Believe in yourself. Comments are always welcome. Topic requests, I love those, and I'll see you soon. Believe in yourself.